My 22 female family has not celebrated anything to do with me since I was 12 years old. My dad and his new wife had a baby that year, and I was kind of forgotten about. I would get birthday presents and such, but no party or anything. I got used to it and started a tradition of celebrating with my friends. We go see movies or whatever. One of my friend's moms found out and started making me a cake every year for my birthday. When I graduated from high school, I saved enough money to go on a week-long vacation to New York City with my best friend and her mom to see Hadestown. I just finished university and I'm starting my new job right away. My dad had planned a big party for me as a surprise, but I didn't show up because I went out with my friends instead. When my family started asking me why I didn't show up after my father had gone through all the effort for me, I explained that he hadn't celebrated anything of mine in 10 years, and I didn't know he'd planned to do so this time. Of course, he told everyone I was lying, so I asked him to post any pictures he had from my birthday parties, extracurricular activities, or high school graduation. He obviously couldn't, and everyone started crapping on him. So now he's mad for talking about private family matters. I'm just going to go over there and pick up a few things I have left in that house and just move to my new city without dealing with this anymore. Am I the idiot? Definitely not the idiot. You can't attend a party you didn't know about. He's now mad because you called him out on his lies and proved to his family that he hasn't celebrated anything for you in years. Obviously it makes him look bad, and that's what he's mad about. You do you. Good luck with your new job and your move. Exactly. And since she went out with friends, he didn't invite them either. Probably because he has no idea who her friends are. The party was to show off to Dad's friends. So who cares if OP's friends show up or not? Wow. Yikes, that's a great point. Man, I really dropped the ball over the past few years. I need to try and make up. I'll throw a surprise party and make sure the whole family is coming. Forgets to get OP there. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. I can promise you, and I know you're being sarcastic, the dad did not plan this to make it up to her. She's now become a successful adult, and he wanted an event where people could congratulate him on raising her right. Unfortunately, he was so focused on himself that he forgot to invite her because she was just the topic of the event. He was the subject. It was a party for him. The theme just happened to be OP's graduation. Even ignoring everything else, there's something sadly hilarious about the fact he didn't even realize OP always goes out with friends on special occasions. OP, your dad sucks more than a vacuum, and what a brilliant way of putting him in his place. You were honest with people. He publicly accused you of lying. You proved he was the one lying. He now thinks you're wrong for talking about private family matters. Funny how he was okay talking about them publicly until he got his butt handed to him. A couple of months ago, I, 27 female, moved into a new apartment with my boyfriend, 28. We're still in the process of settling in, and our neighbours have been super friendly. One of our neighbours is an 18-year-old kid who lives with his grandma. He's been especially helpful in showing us around. A few days ago, I received some deliveries but struggled to carry them up the stairs. I asked my boyfriend to help me and he said he'd do it later. He was gaming, so later meant never. Our neighbour was about to enter his place and spotted me. He immediately jumped in to help and did it all faster and more efficiently. I gave him some snacks and water as a thank you and we parted ways. Afterward, I was on the phone with my sister in the kitchen and my boyfriend was also present. I praised our neighbour and told her how sweet and helpful and thoughtful he was. My boyfriend freaked out when he realised that our neighbour helped carry everything upstairs. In fact, he got so upset that he told me to stop telling my sister about the situation. I started laughing because he suddenly seemed concerned and kept asking me for details. I jokingly said that he was busy gaming while the 18-year-old gentleman put his physical strength to actual good use. That did it because he looked at me like I took a dump on the kitchen table. Then he told me that from now on, I should always go to him first before running off. I said that this is entirely up to him. He was clearly in a bad mood for the rest of the evening. He also asked me to stop bad-mouthing him to my sister, although I never did. So, am I the idiot for singing our neighbour's praises and embarrassing my boyfriend on the phone? He was too busy gaming. He's just upset and embarrassed that a kid 10 years his junior stepped up in a way he wouldn't. You are not the idiot, but it sucks that you just moved in with the potato. Especially now that he's threatened by the younger and more helpful neighbour. He'll be insufferable and sulk whenever he sees the poor kid. Potato is the perfect descriptor. This guy is an absolute loser. This is classic, if you want me to say something nice about you, do something nice. I will never understand people who get upset because we don't praise them for doing nothing. If you want to be considered nice, kind or thoughtful, you have to first be nice, kind or thoughtful. OP's boyfriend was none of those things and yet feels entitled to being thought of in that way. BS. Agree. Boyfriend cares very much about how others see him, but not enough to put in the actual work required to earn that opinion. He'd rather ask his girlfriend not to share with family occurrences that do not reflect well upon him. I consider that a red flag. OP should keep an eye on that type of behaviour. To start off with, my 64 male daughter, who is 30, and son, who is 26, both ended up with very different paths in life. Like the rest of the women in our family, my daughter wanted to go to medical school and study to become a dermatologist, since she wanted a successful job no matter what, and she loved studying skin conditions as well. That meant she was willing to do whatever it took to get scholarships and work multiple jobs, although I tried to help her pay her tuition as much as I could to make that happen. So now she currently is working her dream job and making a very good living, about $250,000 a year, and she's very debt-free now, which is something I'm very proud of her for. While my son decided to give up on going to further schooling just so he could help aid his sick mother, when her health heavily declined from leukemia around when our son was 14 and our daughter was 18. So, to focus more on taking care of his now late mother and then me after I got lung cancer, my son has focused on working only minimum wage jobs just so that he can have more time to care for us. And even if I knew that he probably wanted to go to college, and I told him to not worry about us, my son was still so kind enough to decide to focus more on us instead so that his sister wouldn't be burdened by doing so, and simply because he loved us. Because I feel so grateful and responsible for him sacrificing so much for us, I decided to let both my children know that, when I die, my son is to keep the house, all the possessions we have in the house, including our car, and 80% of whatever money that I have left in hopes that he could eventually use it to go to college if he wanted to. And that my daughter can have the other 20% of the money because I wanted to leave her something, but I didn't think that she needed the money that much since she has a well-paying job, for her to be left behind with many of her mother's possessions and whatever my son didn't want to inherit from me. Of course, I did expect my daughter to be somewhat upset about this, with her potentially believing that I'm favouring my son more than her, despite my trying to explain that I'm simply trying to pay back my son for all the help he gave to me and that I really don't favour him more than her. However, what I didn't expect is the rest of my family, especially the women, to call me as well and berate me for acting misogynistic and that I was punishing my daughter for her successes, when I only wanted to give back to my son for helping me and my late wife. Am I the idiot, and should I reconsider splitting the accesses of my will 50-50 before it's too late? Edit. My son didn't become an official full-time caregiver at 14, although he insisted on helping out because he was very worried about his mother and loved her dearly. I was the main primary caregiver for my late wife and continued to do so up until her death. Still, my son was the one who was very kind-hearted enough to want to help me, and he even insisted on taking a full-time caregiving role and giving up on going to college after he graduated high school. So, yes, he does have a high school diploma under his belt, just because he wanted to help me juggle between taking care of his mother and making sure that I can help provide whatever financial support I could to his sister. Not the idiot. Your son has put his life on hold for 12 years. He's definitely going to need a bit of help getting back on track. He's significantly behind his sister in making a decent wage. 4 years of school, 3 years of college at least before he'll be where she was 7 years ago. You're not punishing your daughter for her success. You're rewarding your son for his time and effort. Agreed on the financials, but is it about that? Can OP switch to leaving the daughter some more possessions and keepsakes so she doesn't feel less than? What about things that remind her of her dad and their relationship together? Her brother gets to decide if she's earned that. That was my thought too. The difference in money may sting a bit, but it's the "you can get his leftovers" that got me. It feels personal. I don't want you to have any of my items unless your brother says he doesn't want them. I'm a minimalist, but I'd still be hurt if I was told I couldn't keep a memento from one parent unless my sibling deemed I could have it. Also, does anyone else forget that having a fully paid off house and car is a huge step up in today's economy? By giving the son those, most of his adult bills are officially covered, aside from maintaining said property and car and taxes that come with it, and then the 80% of the money, plus first dibs on whatever items he wants, I mean, it is a bit much to expect her to be just totally fine with all that. My guess is everyone else, including sister in the family, sees him as a loafer mooching off his parents, using their illness as an excuse. I disagree. I read that his son chose to give up everything to care for OP's wife. Wife got sick when his son was 14, so no, the son didn't make a choice. Son was stuck. OP, you are the idiot for using your 14-year-old son as a home health aide. Depending on where you live, you could have been eligible for a home health aide, but you chose to allow your child to throw away their future for your benefit. My wife and I have 2 kids, Annie, female teen, that's hers, and Zoe, female teen, that's mine. We got married 4 months ago. Zoe is very active. She goes to painting, violin, basketball, and ballet classes. She always has to do something and hates having nothing to do. Unlike most teenagers, she doesn't spend much time on her phone or electronics. These are her only hobbies. Now that we're married, my wife asked me to sign Annie up for a class as I make more than her and she can't afford it. The problem is, I can't afford it, so to do that, Zoe needs to quit one of her classes, which is not an option. I told my wife that Annie never did anything, so why does it suddenly have to change? Like she was completely fine with playing with her phone all the time for 15 years, but now that it will be from my money, she suddenly needs to go to a class. And it's fine if she does, but then my wife should be the one paying. My wife thinks I'm a huge idiot. Edit. My wife puts more money in her daughter's college fund and I do too. If she wants classes for her daughter, she can put less money in her college fund and not expect me to do so. Annie has her own dad, but I guess he can't be bothered. You are the idiot. Why was this not discussed before you were married? When you marry someone, you create a family. Annie may not be your biological daughter, but would you find the money to sign her up for at least one class if she were? Probably. This kind of favoritism will breed resentment among the girls and, worst of all, is a bad life lesson to Zoe. Your description of Zoe is glowing. Annie? Not so much. I'm sure Annie will pick up on this. Have you ever thought that Annie spends more time on her phone because she hasn't been given the opportunities to take classes like Zoe has? That should change. Finally, both kids have phones, but no one can afford one additional class. I'll never understand this thinking. This is a tough one, but I think I'll go with not the idiot. From your edit, it seems your wife doesn't want to take money from her daughter's college fund, which is where she puts all her extra money. Instead, she expects you to drop one of your daughter's activities to pay for hers. That's what I think isn't fair. It's not really that she doesn't have the money, it's that she puts her money elsewhere. Granted, it's totally admirable to put towards college, but it's not cool to expect others to go without so she doesn't have to pay. I also disagree with the, of course your daughter's life changed since you got married, so what does dropping something really matter? Consistency in other areas like activities would be important with the change in new step-family adjustments. Also, you said your stepdaughter has a dad. Why isn't he paying? It shouldn't be up to you and your daughter to cover. Your wife's expectations are not fair to your daughter. Don't do it. Zoe didn't get married. If you do this, expect anger and bitterness to rule the roost. And if a wife causes anger and bitterness, it's good to know now so you can see how you want to handle the issues of, you don't love my daughter as much as you love your daughter, and other such manipulations. Good luck. I, female teen, live with just my dad, 42. My mom left when I was 5 and I haven't seen her since. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Chris, female 41. She's okay, we definitely aren't close. It's kind of me doing my thing and Chris doing her thing. I figured I'll be out of the house soon, so it didn't really matter if my dad's girlfriend and I didn't get along. Except we have a big problem. I have a cat I got when I was a younger teen. She was just a kitten. She's helped me through a lot of tough times. When Chris first came over, she saw my cat and said she was allergic. Well, I don't believe it. She's been over for multiple days. Her eyes don't get puffy or watery. She doesn't sound congested or anything. And she also doesn't get hives or a rash or anything. So I call BS. Because she constantly talks about how bad her allergies are, but I see no symptoms. Well, Sunday my dad proposed, and of course Chris said yes. Her apartment lease is coming up for her to renew if she wants, but last night she talked about Chris just moving in with us. Then she said, well, if I'm living here full time, the cat's got to go. She complained she's not always going to deal with her allergies. I told them no, I'm not willing to give up my cat. My dad pleaded with me, saying it was unfair to Chris to have to deal with her allergies all the time while living with us. Chris had a smirk on her face while my dad was trying to bargain with me. At that moment, I knew she was definitely faking. After Chris left, I told my dad I would never forgive him if he made me get rid of my cat. And I also told him I think Chris is faking being allergic to cats. He got mad and told me I was selfish and I didn't want him to be happy. I know some people will say my cat is just a pet, but she is honestly family to me. Not the idiot. Tell him you're allergic to Chris. This is an example of a power struggle where she wants her dad to pick her over you. It's a sample of what's to come. Can you have a family member or friend foster you until you're out on your own? The cat and the daughter could stay with a family member. OP, move in with a sympathetic relative. He's lost his mind along with his heart. Your kids always come first. Always. And be extra careful with your cat. If you can, get them chipped. Sounds like an evil stepmother might try and dump your baby somewhere. Don't trust her or your dad. They're already behaving against your best interests. Please don't trust them to do the right thing by your cat. And lock down anything precious to you. Family heirlooms, keepsakes, photos of you and your parents, because Chris will accidentally give away or destroy it. You can warn your dad that you'll never forgive him and warn him that you'll go no contact and move out as soon as you're of age. But at the end of the day, it's your dad's house, and he can do what he wants, so please be prepared.